Big Sky Basketball as we take you around the conference for all the latest in Big Sky hoops. Now, here's your host, Scott Gerard.
Hey, welcome on in. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Great show lined up for you this week. Here in just a moment, we'll catch up with Eastern Washington head men's basketball coach Jim Hayford. In segment number 2, we'll welcome in Idaho State women's basketball player Freya Newton. And in segment number 3, we'll catch up once again with Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. We'll call it Colter's Corner. You know you're a good guest when you get your own segment named after you. Before we get started, though, let's take a look at this week's results around the conference. Sacramento State picked up 2 Big Sky Conference wins with an 88-83 victory at Southern Utah on Thursday and then a 74-62 win at Northern Arizona on Saturday. Weber State defended the D with wins over Idaho and Eastern Washington. Montana picked up home wins over North Dakota and Northern Colorado, while in Bozeman, Montana State split the weekend series with a loss at UND on Thursday and a win over Northern Colorado on Saturday. Idaho State dropped 2 games to Eastern Washington and Idaho. With that, let's welcome in Eastern Washington men's basketball coach Jim Hayford, kind enough to carve out a few moments for us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Always nice to talk with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Your team sits at 11-7 overall, 3-2 in conference play. You split the weekend series with a win at Idaho State before you dropped a close one at Weber State. Take us through these last 2 games, because I know that's not an easy road trip for your guys.
Well, the game at Idaho State just played pretty well. Scored over 90 points, obviously, and took them out of their zone early in the game. And then their 2 guards, Telfair and Boyd, they're good. And then they brought them back behind their great shooting, and they're hard to guard. But Jake Wiley inside was just a beast. He had, I think, 19 or 20 points at the half. And we were up at the half, and then he got 3 quick fouls first 3 minutes, second half. And then just had a collection of different guys make contributions. And then Bogdan kind of took over to key clutch period, and were able to get out of Pocatello with the win. And then we went down to Weber State, and just a tremendous team they have there, conference favorite. And I had a 7-point lead at halftime again behind Jake, who just had a great game. He had 36 points, and got it down there to the last minute. It was a 1-possession game, and then we had a tough foul call go against us, and then we missed an open look and got down to the last second and got it back to 1 point, but it was just a little too late against a really good team. But I liked my effort of my team both nights, and showed us that we can be right there if we can go play that way on a Saturday on the road against the conference favorite.
You talk about Jacob Wiley, 27 points, as you mentioned, against Idaho State, followed that up with 36 at Weber State. Talk about his development, because this kid seems like he's playing out of his mind right now. Well,
he's a grad transfer from Lewis and Clark State. He originally started his career at Montana. He's from about an hour and a half up the road, a little town called Newport, Washington. Mm-hmm. And he's just an unbelievable young man. When he left Montana, he contacted us, but there's just with his eligibility that just didn't make sense. So he went down, and was an NAI first-team All-American and graduated, and called me up and said, "Can I come play for you now?" And I said, "Absolutely." Graduating Benkei Joyce, our all-time leading scorer. And we liked our young big men, but we had an immediate need, for someone who could step right in. And boy, he's been something special, and he's just an amazing young man, a super hard worker. Recently became a father, and it's just a great fit for our program.
Bogdan Bliznuk has been your leading scorer in 8 games. He averages over 18 points per game. Seems like he's really taken on a leadership role and trying to take a little ownership of this team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, every year we have 2 captains. One's a senior, one's a junior, and Bogdan moved into that captain role and is the most experienced player in that class. And he really embraced it, and he's really enjoyed it. Our senior captain, Felix von Hoff, and Bogdan are doing a great job of leading our guys. We got a great brotherhood. We have a team with a lot of grit and cohesion, and so you lose 2 all-region players in Austin McBroom and Benkei Joyce, but here our team sits with 11 wins, And I think a lot of it has to do with the leadership of those two guys. So Bogdan had a tough night at Weber. He can play a whole lot better than he showed, and we're still right there. I expect him to respond real well this weekend at home against NAU in Southern Utah.
During that non-conference portion of your season, you picked up some big wins over Seattle, San Francisco, Denver. Do you think that kind of preseason schedule kind of helped prepare your team for the Big Sky season?
Well, it was great playing more home games than away games. I think we're the only Big Sky team that happened to this year.
Wow.
And we'll pay the price next year. And last year we had one Division I non-conference game, and I think next year will probably be the same. And so it was just neat. We kind of paid the price over 3-4 years of scheduling to be able to host two tournaments. And but it's one thing to have those games scheduled. It's another thing to go win them. And our guys found a way early, and we won 4 overtime games in non-conference play. 2 of them were double overtime wins. And I think a lot of that had to do with we had a really good trip to Australia off the court. On the court, we battled through a lot of injuries, so a lot of guys got different opportunities, and they had to find a way to make things work while they're on the trip. And out of that adversity, I think it gave us a head start on the season.
You got Northern Arizona and Southern Utah coming to Cheney this weekend. So give me some of your keys. What do you need to do to try to get some wins over the Lumberjacks and the Thunderbirds?
We just need to keep developing our identity, play to our strengths, and keep improving. I mean, we're starting 2 freshmen. We only have 2 seniors because we lost another returning starter, Julian Harrell, the first week of the season. And so I just see my team getting better every week. And so, for us to do well against NAU, who played really well against Portland State last night, on Thursday, we just need to keep playing to our identity. This team's improved a lot as the season's progressed defensively. We always got shooters in our program, and we're shooting the ball at a pretty high clip. And then Jake's just been something special inside. So we just need to keep playing to our identity, and the more that we do that, the more we're going to get better each week of the season.
Well, Coach, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Keep it rolling. We look forward to catching up with you again very soon.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a great week.
You too. Eastern Washington head men's basketball coach Jim Hayford here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Take a quick break, come back with Freya Newton from Idaho State in just a bit. It's all right here on another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
What makes a Big Sky champion? Is it toughness? Is it competitiveness? Is it community? Is it achievement? Or is it sportsmanship? All these attributes live in the heart of a Big Sky champion. We're the Big Sky Conference.
You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Welcome back. You're listening to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Hey, remember to go to roadtoreno.com. That's roadtoreno.com. Buy your tickets, you book your hotel accommodations, and see your team in Reno. The Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships, March 6th through the 11th in Reno, and get everything you need at roadtoreno.com. All right, time to take a look at the women's side of the tourney, and we'll be joined in just a moment by Idaho State guard Freya Newton. But let's review last weekend's scores. Northern Colorado stays undefeated, wins over Montana and Montana State, 66-58 win over the Bobcats. North Dakota getting its first league loss in overtime, a defeat to Montana State 74-71. Eastern Washington getting a weekend sweep. They get wins over Idaho State and Weber State. The Eagles getting a 99-85 win over the Wildcats. Sacramento State goes 2-0 on the weekend with a win over Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. Then Portland State also goes 2-0, sweeping Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. And finally, Idaho State with a split this weekend, falling at Idaho before defeating in-state rival Idaho 67-60 in Moscow on Saturday. With that, let's bring in Idaho State guard Freya Newton. Freya, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. First off, you guys have had an up-and-down season, playing really well some moments, and then having some struggles other times throughout the year. Is it that win over Idaho the sign that good things are coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, that's the hope. I think with our inconsistencies, our defense has stayed pretty solid. And so, it's just our shooting that's kind of taking a little bit of inconsistency. But, I think once we figure that out, I think we'll be fine.
You feel that's close?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. First off, you guys have had some emotional battles with the Vandals last year, including a loss in the conference title game. When you go there and get a road win like that, what does that mean to your team?
It's pretty awesome to get that road win against any team in the Big Sky, but I don't think Idaho there's a specific sort of rivalry going on there. We obviously wanted to get the win after losing to them last year, but any win against the Big Sky team on the road is pretty big.
So you're just treating it like just another game.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I think that's kind of how you got to take it.
That's coach speak right there. That's impressive. Good job by you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your path. You're originally from New Zealand. How did you end up at Idaho State?
I was at a junior college in Wyoming, Gillette College, and from there, Coach Seaton recruited me out of my freshman year. So I stayed there for my sophomore year, but tore my ACL and then made my way to Idaho State.
What was it that brought you, obviously basketball had a big part of it, but making the jump from New Zealand to Wyoming, that's not an easy jump to make.
Yeah, it's quite a culture shock. It was kind of an opportunity that's not really available in New Zealand, so that was a big part of it, but also kind of just getting away from home and experiencing something new.
There's a handful of players at Idaho State that are outside of the United States. What about that program makes it, a friendly venue for international players?
Yeah, I think the more international players we have, the more it kind of appeals to international players. We all have this sort of unspoken bond of being foreign, which is just kind of like getting used to the American lifestyle and getting used to sort of everything that's different here. So I think that's, it becomes appealing to come to a school where there are people who aren't from here.
Freya Newton, Idaho State guard, joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. How would you describe your playing style? If somebody hasn't watched Idaho State play this year, how would you describe how you handle yourself out there on the court?
Me personally or the team?
You personally.
I definitely consider myself more of a defensive player. I take pride in my defense. Everything else on the court kind of runs through my defense. The better I play defense, the more I kind of focus on my offense. But, so defensive player, I think I would definitely label myself.
There's not a lot of players out there that really enjoy playing defense. Is that something that you've always taken a lot of pride in your basketball career?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy being able to call myself a good defender, and I think that's something that, people don't really think about, but it's huge for me. It's a really big deal for me.
When you're growing up in New Zealand, was there a particular player you looked up to or who you kind of try to model your game after?
No one in particular. It was sort of, I kind of just developed depending on what kind of skills I had, and I think something I kind of pride myself in is playing hard, and so that's what I think a lot of defense comes from. You can always control how hard you play, and so I think that's sort of easier to control than being a shooter and coming out and having an off night.
So tell us a little bit about what you're studying at Idaho State, and when the playing career comes to an end, whenever that may be, what would you like to do?
I just started studying. I just started my master's in microbiology.
Wow.
Not really too confident in what I'm going to be doing after that, but I've got another year and a half or a couple of years to finish that off, so that gives me some time to figure it out. I'll still stick around the basketball, and I'll be in Pocatello for a while, so I'll be able to still catch a lot of the games and, maybe help out a little bit with coaching, but we'll see what goes on.
Does coaching something that interests you?
A little bit at the moment, but I'll see in a couple of years and see what, how interested I get in the research I'm doing and things like that.
All right, so you got a tough homestand this weekend. North Dakota and Northern Colorado rolling into town. What do you need to do to try to get a couple wins this weekend?
I think both those teams that, obviously proved themselves this season. North Dakota always has a traditional team with some bigs, and Northern Colorado has kind of played amazing this year, gone undefeated in conference. So I think they're both going to be really, really tough games. I think, I think our offense will be a little bit more comfortable when we're at home. But I think if we play lockdown defense, I think we'll be fine.
Well, Freya, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the early success. Keep it rolling. We look forward to catching up with you in Reno.
Perfect. Thank you.
You got it. Idaho State guard Freya Newton here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Take a break. Come back with Skyline Sports' Colter Nuanez. It's all after this quick timeout here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. The road to Reno is here. March 6, 2017, the Big Sky Conference will descend upon Reno, Nevada for the 2017 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. Go to roadtoreno.com to book tickets and accommodations for Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball. Be a part of the thrill of Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball and join the Road to Reno.
Back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
All right, final segment here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Gerard. Here in a moment, we're going to catch up with Director of Communications for Men's Basketball in the Big Sky Conference, Jason Ashcraft. Before we do that, though, let's take a look at this week's men's basketball action. Eastern Washington and Idaho host Northern Arizona and Southern Utah. Portland State and Sacramento State welcome in Montana and Montana State, while Weber State and Idaho State make the trip to North Dakota and Northern Colorado. Some outstanding games coming up this weekend on the women's side. Northern Colorado and North Dakota travel out to play at Idaho State and Weber State. Also, the recently upward trending Portland State Vikings and Sacramento State Hornets head to the Treasure State, take on Montana and Montana State. Idaho and Eastern Washington travel south to play Southern Utah and Northern Arizona. Now remember, you can catch all these games on watchbigsky.com. Also catch the games on the Big Sky Conference app. With that, let's go out to the Director of Communications for Men's Basketball, Jason Ashcraft, kind enough to carve out a few moments for us here in studio. Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Scott.
All right, so let's talk about this season so far. Obviously, we're early in the conference season, but obviously we're seeing a ton of parity where, you know, anybody can beat anybody on any given night.
And that's typical of the Big Sky Conference. Right now, Weber State is undefeated, but they've got a couple of teams on their heels. Montana had a great weekend, winning a couple of great home games. Big win over North Dakota, which previously was playing really hot. Weber State, of course, we talked to Jim Hayford earlier in the show, picking up that big win over Eastern Washington on Saturday, a 3-point win up in Ogden. And, you know, each night, you're right, it's really exciting because you never know what's going to happen. Last night we had previously Northern Arizona, who hadn't won a conference game, came around and beat Portland State, which was one of the hottest teams in the conference at the time. So that battle for those top 5 seeds in Reno, which are all the bye seeds, is really going to prove to be pretty exciting this year.
You know, we talk a lot about, you know, travel with these coaches and these players and road trips and, you know, whether they're going to North Dakota or they're making the Montana State road trip. Those are all difficult trips to make, and it seems like sometimes it brings these teams back down to earth a little bit.
I think so, and that is one of the challenges of being in a conference as vast geographically as ours, but that's the way it is in college basketball, especially at conferences like the Big Sky, where you're playing those Thursday, Saturday games. We don't do like the Atlantic 10 where you play on a Tuesday and then you're off for 4 days or something like that. So that's one of the challenges, and I think that's something that all the coaches are telling their recruits when they come in. You're going to have to be ready to play on the road, and it's going to wear on you. Just be prepared.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Eastern had Weber State on the ropes, a good portion of that game up in Ogden before Weber was able to pull that thing out. Montana, they've suddenly picked up a couple big wins over the weekend. That UND game went right down to the wire. What do you think has been the key to the Grizz turning their season around?
Right now, I think it's Ahmad Rory. He's really stepped up, a kind of a sleeper in the preseason, stepped up to be a real go-to guy for the Grizz. He's averaging around 19 points a game, if I recall correctly. And they also got Walter Wright back. He's healthy, and he's running the point as well. And Michael Ogunye has kind of come back from injury. Injury really hampered the Grizz earlier in the season. Another thing that the Grizz had to contend with was they were the only school in the conference to play a non-conference schedule that did not include a non-D1. So they played an entirely Division I schedule, which really helped them out to prepare them for the Big Sky. But at the same time, there weren't any breaks in that schedule.
You got a big one coming up, Weber State in North Dakota. Should be a fun one.
Oh, yeah. Quentin Hooker, we had him on the show a week or two ago.
That's right.
Preseason MVP. He's going up against Jeremy Singleton, who is just playing lights out recently. So it's a good battle of guards. Gino Crandall for the Fighting Hawks has really come on strong as of late. He's scored over 20 points in the past 2 games this past weekend. Had a double-double, I believe, and Montana. So that's going to be a good battle in the low post, see what he can do against guys like Zach Braxton. But that might be the game of the week. So if you're listening, get on the Big Sky app and watch BigSky.com and watch that one on Thursday night.
Watch every second of that one because it's going to be a fun one. All right, so this is all leading up to obviously the road to Reno. For the second straight year, we're seeing obviously this neutral site location in Reno, Nevada. Tell us a little bit about, obviously, year 1 is under your belts. Year number 2, talk about the progression of this conference from year 1 to year 2 with this conference tournament down in Reno.
Well, we learned a lot in year 1. From a media standpoint, I think every media member who went will tell you that they had a great time.
Loved it.
And just enjoyed the whole tournament. We have both the men's and women's teams in the same site throughout the week. So fans of North Dakota can go and see their women's team and their men's team throughout the week. With Reno, it's a great situation. You know, I've worked in other conferences at other schools, and nowhere have I been to a conference tournament where you have the hotels literally a block away from the arena. You don't have to take a cab; you can walk, and there's all the amenities just right there. From a fan standpoint, I didn't hear a single fan who went who didn't have a great time and enjoyed themselves. And from the quality of play on the court, we had some great basketball last year. On the women's side, we had a couple of plays with Idaho State and Idaho making it on SportsCenter Top 10. Of course, Weber State and Montana played an absolute thriller in the men's basketball final. And this year, it's going to probably be even more exciting. There really isn't a team on either side that is kind of rolling away with the conference. So look for another really interesting tournament, and every team is going to be there. So don't worry about your team not making it. You can schedule ahead and be prepared to watch your team in Reno.
And again, you can go to one website and get your tickets and your hotel, and everything can be taken care of. RoadToReno.com.
RoadToReno.com. We got everything there. You can click on hotel information. We have the hotels listed out by team. So if you want to stay in the hotel that your team is staying in, you can go ahead and do that. We even have for media to click on there and get their media credentials. Ticket information is also set up. You can either purchase through your team's specific ticket website, or you can go to the Reno Events Center Ticketmaster site and pick up tickets that way.
Jason, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for hanging out and pitch hitting today.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. That wraps it up. Another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Big thanks to Eastern Washington men's basketball coach Jim Hayford, Idaho State's Freya Newton, and also the Director of Communications for men's basketball, Jason Ashcraft. For producer Austin Horton, I'm Scott Gerard. We'll be back with you next week for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.